My name is Bernardine, and I'm both a roboticist and academic. What does this mean? I have the ridiculously exciting job, really it is crazy, of being able to play with robots, build them, change them, and teach about them and do research about robots. And robots are really at the cutting edge of technology, and so really what I do is work with some incredibly talented people from around the world to invent our future. And it's an exciting and very empowering process. But what I want to talk to you about today is taking a step back and not focusing just on robots, how you would see it, but looking at computing technology and how we might truly bridge the world using this technology. So let's start by talking about the power of technology, right? So if I say computer, most of you will have an image, something like this, or maybe a laptop. But if we push a little, you will all know that computing technology has affected communications. We can embed ridiculous amount of intelligence and power into a simple mobile phone. We don't have to connect remotely. We can actually travel. Transportation has been affected. Even our virtual worlds, things that don't exist, we create in the movies through special effects and all kinds of things. Science, right? Science has been absolutely revolutionized by technology. We can understand and interact with things at an entirely different level. And of course, I have to have a picture of a robot. So robots do all kinds of cool things, starting from industry and going all the way to surgery, right? And now you can even swallow little robotic pills that will basically give you all the information about what's happening in your body without having to do invasive surgery. So pretty cool stuff. And of course, we're not limited to this Earth, right? Breaking all of these boundaries, we can go out into space and do all kinds of cool things. And not only humans, but we've sent robots even farther away, and they're able to pave the way so that we can go explore as well. And don't forget entertainment. They're here to entertain us as well. So all of this has been great, and I'm not saying technology has not had any problems, but you will all probably agree with me that it has given us incredible advantages, right? Right. But the problem is that we don't all benefit. And even if you can find a path and say that, okay, maybe everybody benefits in some way, we certainly do not all benefit equally. So this is what I want to address. The 4 billion people at the base of the economic pyramid, like the AIDS orphan from Tanzania or the little blind girl from India, they really don't benefit from the computing technology that you and I spend so much time and effort innovating. And it's not just about them, right? It's very easy to say us versus them. Well, they're out of sight, out of mind. It's also some of us. I, for example, grew up in the base of the economic pyramid. I was the second of 6 children, single income family, 0 inheritance, right? It doesn't mean that when I was growing up, I didn't have valuable things. It doesn't mean that I didn't have big dreams. I wanted access to technology. In fact, I used to fight with my parents to be able to learn about computers, but really didn't get the opportunity till I went to college. But we still grew up with a strong focus on education. And in fact, my mother her dream was to raise 6 children who would change the world. That was a big goal to grow up with. So from the age of about 10, I really have been thinking about, well, how can technology, which fascinated me from a very young age, truly benefit everyone in the world? And it's not just about, taking technology to help those people. It's really about empowering people with technology so that their ideas and their contributions to this world can be felt by all of us. Okay, so how do we fix this? For the last 6 years, I've been studying this more formally now that I'm a professor at a big university. And I think there are 3 things we should fix. First, the innovation process. Second, the value system. And third, the future innovators. So let's talk about all 3 of these. We'll start with the innovation process. So for all of those of you in the audience who are innovators, here's an example of how we innovate. So in robotics, since I'm in robotics, you'll start with a group of people coming together, and we'll say in this case that it's a group from agricultural industry in the US, right? So they want robotics technology to help the agricultural industry, the farmers. So somebody at this table has money, because otherwise nothing will happen. Let's be practical. And we'll say, okay, here's the sort of things that problems we're facing. And then we start reading about it. So some of those people are engineers and innovators. But we don't stop there, because that will come to a bad solution. We go and visit farms. We watch the process of farming. We talk to a lot of different farmers or people involved with the farming industry. We look at their outcome, their output, which might be sheep or something else, their tools, right? And the constraints of their tools. And it's only then that we even attempt to build a solution. And okay, to be fair, it won't be a robot like that. What it will really be is something more like this, because which farmer really wants to use a tool that looks like that, right? It might be cool for you or me. So this is the innovation process. And it's an exciting process, and we do it really well, and I love it. It's one of the reasons I'm in robotics, because I get to learn so much about so many other fields. But the problem is when us innovators try to take this problem or this challenge and move it to expanded boundaries, we forget that people and ecosystems are really important. The users, the customers, the client, they're the ones who should drive your innovation. Instead, when we try to expand boundaries, often what happens is we take that computer that was developed for you and me, and we ship it off and say, oh, it's going to do great things in, you know, put in your favorite buzzword, Africa or India or so on and so forth, right? So let me tell you about how we go about this. This is a story about what we've been doing with a small school for the blind in India. And this is the principal, the director of that school, along with some of my students. When we started working with this school in 2006, we had no money. So we started by talking over email. And we were asking them, you know, what kinds of challenges do you face? What do you do in your daily life? And we learned all about Braille, right? So Braille is the way blind people read and write. It's a tactile language where you read with your fingers, and it's all about raised dots and patterns of them. We got someone to go into the classroom and get video and send them to us. We learned about the little kids, the students, who are absolutely adorable, and the different ways they learn. We worked with teachers and understood curriculum, and we really understood that there was this one problem especially that was blocking their progress, which was how to teach writing Braille. Now, writing Braille, I can go on for a long time about. I'm going to give you the short version. What's really important is that the biggest challenge is that you get delayed feedback. Why? Because several of the teachers themselves are blind, and it's very hard to sort of align the paper in the device called a slate where you write. And so when you're blind. And so they get the students to align this paper once, and then they write 2 or 3 lines of Braille, and then the teacher takes it out and flips the paper over, reads the dots, and says, oh, no, 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 in the 3rd character you wrote, the 4th dot was wrong, right? Imagine learning how to write like that when you're 4 or 5 years old. It's ridiculous. So we realized there was a very simple solution to this. So we built a little device that we call the Braille writing tutor. And all it did was speak back to the child as they write. And so it'll say dot 1, dot 4, dot 6. You wrote the letter A, and so on and so forth, right? And we worked with the teachers. We built curriculum starting with dot numbers to letters and so on and so forth. And it really changed how students viewed writing Braille. They absolutely hated it. And even to this day, they're using our Braille writing tutor. And they teach the weakest students only using the Braille writing tutor because that's the only thing that they're motivated to use. So we built games for them and all kinds of fun things. And this process, which is the same process we use in the US or in Qatar, really works if you apply it to expanded boundaries. So keeping in mind the importance of people and ecosystems, now I want to address the value system. The problem with the value system that I see is that those 2 examples I gave you The first one, all of my esteemed colleagues will say is great research, it's scientific. And the second one, they're going to label as outreach, okay? And while outreach might seem important to some of you, within technology, it's not valued very highly. So let's talk about how we value things in academia within innovation. When I go up for review, what do they ask me? They ask me, how many things have you published? How many talks have you given? So thanks, TEDx. I get to count this one. How many awards have you won? How much money have you brought in? And maybe they'll ask my students how well I taught them in class, right? And the problem with all of this, if you think about it, is it all links back to this notion of an expert, right? So all of my publications need to be peer-reviewed, so experts decide what gets published. Who invites me to talks? Experts. Who decides what awards I get or which grant proposals I win? Experts do. So we need to think very carefully who these experts are, because they really influence what we value in a discipline and within academia especially, which invents the future. So I want to expand our boundaries a little bit. I'm not saying get rid of the current experts. They're very useful, and there's a reason they are experts. But we need to include more voices in this value system. We need to include people like Ms. Mukta, who is one of my inspirations in life, who at a very young age hurt her foot and realized, because in her life, she wouldn't be able to, or most likely wouldn't be able to get married because of her deformity, that she needed to become independent. So she went and became a lawyer. And in her rehabilitation process for her foot, she met a lot of blind people and said, you know, life is much worse for them than it is for me. And so she started this school, incredible, from nothing. And to this day, she's been expanding and doing some incredible things. There are people like Dr. Teresa Kaijage, or as she is called, Mama Kaijage in Tanzania, who is the first person to get a PhD in sociology from Tanzania. She got it in the University of Pittsburgh, and has done incredible things in Tanzania for the AIDS movement and for AIDS orphans especially, and how to tackle that problem. And then there are people like the little girl in Zambia whose favorite gift I could give her was this little button that said, I love robots. And all of these little kids from around the world who really have informed, you know, they have a lot of ideas, incredible ideas, and a lot of excitement about technology. So this brings us to the future innovators. How do we train them today? Well, a lot of you are students, right? We put you in a classroom. We maybe give you some chance to program or work in a lab. We give you real-world experience by sending you on internships. And all of these are really important. And then we ask you to come up with great ideas. And you do, okay? And this works really well. But what's missing is perhaps that our experiences that we give you are too limited. So we've been trying to push the boundaries here. And with great partners like Qatar Foundation and Yahoo, who have been visionary in funding our work, we've been sending students around the world to work with people who are blind in Tanzania, or little kids who are struggling to learn English. We've put them in multidisciplinary teams because, you know what, one group, we're no longer in a world where you stick to one discipline. You're going to cross boundaries in the future for sure. We send students to teach other students and to learn from them. This was the first robotics undergraduate course in Ghana. And the outcomes are incredible. There are things like the Braille writing tutor. There are things like that first robotics course that went on to promote some of those students to go and start their own companies, and they're doing incredible things. The little kids who learn English through a mobile phone because they don't even have books. Some really, really cool things. So this is what I have been doing for the last 6 years. I wanted to build bridges rather than divides with the technology, and so I started a group called TechBridge World. And we've been having some great experiences going around the world, learning to travel, learning some very practical things like how to travel in places where you can't make hotel reservations. How do you travel locally from Lusaka to Mongu when you know you have to go through a national park and you don't want to get stuck in case the animals attack you in the middle of the night? Eating the craziest things by several of our standards, but yet people eat these things, and we learn and we live with the people, and that's the best way to learn. Learning to work without power. We know a lot about which batteries and which flashlights work well. And we've worked with students while they learn, while they play, and been inspired by so many people, like these parasocial workers in Tanzania, who not only volunteer their time, but actually invest their own very hard-earned money to help AIDS orphans in their community. And it's an incredibly rewarding experience. It's not all about hardship. This is a group of blind teachers in Zambia who wrote a song for us, who, you know, we spent 2 days, that's all we could afford, 2 days helping them set up a curriculum with a Braille writing tutor, and they wrote a song for us about how Africa loves us. It's very empowering. So what are my ideas for spreading? I think technology can be a great advantage, and I think most people will agree. But we have to remember that all people are important. And my challenge to the innovators is to keep that in mind even when you're crossing boundaries. And my challenge to the decision makers is to expand our value system so that we can value that and value the people who want to do this work. And my challenge to all of you who are future innovators is to push your boundaries. Go get experiences in all of these different places. And together, we can make a difference. Thank you.